So you've got your medical cannabis prescription and you're wondering, can I still have a pint? A glass of wine? Or are you about to unlock a brand new level of carnage where you wake up in a Wetherspoons beer garden covered in kebab sauce and wondering why you've only got one sock on? If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Smokey. I bust myths and bring you reviews of all things medical cannabis. But if you're not new, welcome back, my dudes and lady dudes. Today, we're busting some myths about medical cannabis and alcohol. Little spoiler alert, it's not as deadly as your mate Steve tells you about on his worst night ever, but it's also not as simple as just cracking on and hoping for the best. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the big one. If you mix booze and flour, you'll instantly be out of your depth, calling yourself an Uber home whilst your mates are still on their first round. And for the truth, it's not guaranteed chaos, but it all depends on how much you're consuming. A casual pint with a low dose flour, probably nothing to worry about. A few pints in a heroic Dynavap session, you might be holding on to that bus stop for dear life, just to try and stop the world from spinning. This is what's known as the crossfade effect, where your body's trying to process two different substances at once. And because alcohol makes your body absorb THC faster, you may end up feeling way more medicated than you bargained for. The solution for this? Start low, go slow. Poet?
I am a poet.
And maybe don't test the waters just before your nan's birthday. Okay, another myth I hear, cannabis can sober you up. The classic lad logic. Mate, I'm too drunk, pass me a joint, it will sort me right out. Look, I get why people think this. Cannabis can sometimes make you feel more alert. So after a few tokes, you might think, I'm fine now. But your blood alcohol level isn't changing. You're still just as drunk, just a little bit more confused. This is particularly dangerous because it can make people think that they are sober enough to be able to drive. You're not. Please don't be that person. Also, just to make things even better, mixing the two increases your chances of feeling sick. Which leads me on to my next point. Throw in a whitey. We've all been there. If you've ever thrown a whitey before, you'll know the symptoms. Dizziness, nausea, sweating, and an overwhelming need to sit on a cold floor with your head resting against the toilet bowl. But let's clear this up. Throwing a whitey from using too much cannabis isn't the same as alcohol poisoning. Alcohol poisoning is a medical emergency where your body is physically shutting down. Throwing a whitey, whilst you may feel like it's a medical emergency, you're going to be fine.
I don't feel well.
It just feels like you're on your way to those pearly gates. But with that being said, alcohol does make your body absorb THC faster, as I mentioned before, which means your usual dose could hit you a little bit harder than normal. If you find yourself on the verge of a whitey, or as I like to call it, talking to God on the big white telephone, I've got some tips for you. Get yourself somewhere safe and somewhere you feel comfortable. Take small sips of water and remind yourself you're not actually dying, no matter how much your brain will try and tell you otherwise. I used to find laying on the floor in a cold, dark room with no one speaking to me, like even someone speaking to me would set me off like, yeah, not cool. Another myth I hear, alcohol and cannabis can make you more creative. Some people reckon a few pints and a bit of flour will turn them into some sort of creative genius, a sort of Shakespeare meets Banksy situation. In reality, you're more likely to spend an hour giggling at a crisp packet or texting your mate about a brilliant business idea that will make absolutely zero sense in the morning. I mean, sure, sometimes cannabis can boost creativity and alcohol can lower inhibitions. But too much of both, you're just a bloke in a pub trying to convince everyone that your new flavour of crisp, full English breakfast, but with an aftertaste of orange juice, is a guaranteed winner. I think we both know it's not. Another one I hear, if you can handle one, you can handle the other. And this is where a lot of people get caught out. If you're good at handling alcohol, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be fine when you mix it with cannabis. And vice versa, if you've got a high tolerance for cannabis, that definitely doesn't mean that alcohol won't hit you harder. Alcohol and cannabis affect your body in totally different ways. Alcohol is a depressant, slowing down your brain and reflexes. THC can affect coordination, perception, and what was I going to say? Oh yeah, memory.
JK, LOL.
If you mix all that together, your body's basically like, yeah, you're on your own now, mate. All the best. Even seasoned drinkers or experienced cannabis users can find themselves unexpectedly wiped out when combining the two, especially if they don't pace themselves. So the moral of this story, respect your limits. Just because you can down 6 pints without flinching doesn't mean 1 pint in a bowl isn't going to see you on the floor like a little baby. So my final thoughts on medical cannabis and alcohol. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I mean, we're all adults, right? But if you do mix cannabis and alcohol, just be smart. Know your limits, don't drive, and for the love of all things holy, don't try and outdrink or outsmoke your mates. Because that's how bad nights and even worse mornings happen. And there we go. That is another medical mythbuster. Myth busted. That makes sense? As always, thanks for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, hit that little like button. If you want more information like this, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to tell me your experiences with cannabis and alcohol, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As they say in Weatherspoons up and down the country, I'm on table 14, send me a drink. Or they also say, look after yourselves and each other. And as I always like to say, peace out, Cub Scouts. Keep it real. Keep it gangsta. Until next time.